Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to Christmas in Arkham 2022. For those of you who celebrate, I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving with your families or wherever you're celebrating. We're back from our first visit to the Twilight Imperium universe earlier this week via Twilight Inscription, and now it's time to start setting the scene for Christmas in Arkham with the first group in the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament. Yesterday we split the Ancient Ones who crossed this game along with all three games from the Arkham Horror Files into three groups. We'll play solo playthroughs for each Ancient One, and within each group, the Ancient One who does the best, whether by summons or tiebreakers, will advance to a final group, and the winner in that group will be our opponent for Christmas in Arkham. If I have a tie between any Ancient Ones I've featured on the channel versus any I haven't, I'll add an executive tiebreaker to favor the Ancient One I haven't featured on the channel yet. Anyway, I think that's enough yammering about the technical details of the tournament. Let's start working our way into the game, and we'll start with a quick explanation. Our goal here is to summon the Ancient One we're playing with if we can. We'll do that by using our spell cards to move around the board based on the symbols on the back to various locations. We win if we manage to summon the Ancient One, but we'll lose if we end up with either 10 Elder Signs on the summoning track or 5 curses. And remembering our tiebreakers, we'd rather end up losing via curses than Elder Signs. But anyway, that's the high-level view. Now let's go take a look at the board. It might be slightly difficult to see, but there are symbols, and I'll move this fate piece out of the way for a second. So there are symbols that we can use based on our spell cards to move around the board, and the symbols on the back will match up to the symbols on the board. So starting from where our fate piece starts, we'll be using the dark one. We have the Otherworlds location, where there we can sacrifice. We'll roll the fate dice that look like this. So they've got, looks like 2 tentacle faces on them, 2 lesser Elder Signs, a greater Elder Sign, and a Cthulhu. So at the Otherworlds location, we'll roll a die per cultist we have at that location. For every tentacle or Cthulhu we roll, we'll sacrifice 1 to the Abyss and advance 1 on the summoning track. Either the Elder Signs will obviously mean that they stay put at the location. But anyway, that will be a purple symbol that will need to discard either a gate card or 2 of the same to be able to move there. Then moving clockwise, we've got the blue symbol here at the museum, where there we can get artifact cards, and our 2 that we start the game with there. First up we have True Magic. You can exhaust this to discard a spell in your reserve, then draw the top spell from the spell deck and immediately ready it for free. Then the other artifact that we have there, the Silk Shroud of Adlak-Naka. Exhaust it, move 1 investigator being placed on your lodge to any location instead, or we can destroy the artifact to return to the supply up to 2 investigators from your lodge. These are just the basic actions I'm talking about, by the way. There's an advanced version of actions if you have control, but I'll explain more about those as we go through the tournament. So anyway, that's the museum. Moving down to the ceremony via a white symbol, we'll actually trigger each Ancient One's dark gift and get a gate card, which sometimes we'll need gate cards to prepare some of our spells, but again, I'll talk more about that when it actually happens, and we'll go through each Ancient One's dark gift before we start the actual playthrough. The Streets of Arkham actually work slightly different in the solo game than the multiplayer game, where under normal circumstances you'd give 2 investigators to another lodge and immediately raid that investigator. So that's the main way they'll gain Elder Signs on their summoning track, and again, I'll talk more about that when it all happens. But in the solo game, if you move to the Streets of Arkham, it lets you return 2 investigators from your lodge back to the supply, and having control lets you do a slightly more advanced effect. But anyway, that's the Streets of Arkham. At the Gathering, you're able to gain 3 cultists back and move 1 to, I think it's move 1 to any location. Yes, you may move any number. You may move 1 cultist from the gathering to any location. And last up is the library. So if you go to the library, you'll draw 3 spell cards, which I showed you briefly, and then ready an additional spell this turn. So again, I'll explain all of the control locations, but the general way you'll have control, you'll get it in one of 2 ways. Either by having A, 3 cultists, at least 3 cultists at the location and more than the investigators, or B, rolling for temporary control. So you can roll a die. If you don't control the location outright, you'll roll a die. And if you roll a Cthulhu, you get temporary control of the location. So you can get the... so you can take the control action during that turn. But anyway, that's our first look at the board. I'll bring our fate piece back in the way. Now let's go meet the first Ancient One, who, as we recall, we're starting with Group 1. So let's go meet Yog-Sothoth. Before I talk about Yog-Sothoth's Dark Gift, you can see here the summoning track will be moving clockwise, but the Elder Signs will start off at the 9 and move counterclockwise. So our goal is to get to the 9 on the summoning track to be able to summon the Ancient One. We start off with 7 cultists on the lodge. You probably saw briefly 7 cultists in the Abyss and 1 at each location. So Yog-Sothoth's Dark Gift, the key and the gate. Look at any one spell card from any location's astral column. You may ready that spell at no cost or discard it. And spells readied with Yog-Sothoth's Dark Gift don't count towards your spell limit. So you might have seen briefly when we were at the board that there were other cards out there at the start of the location's astral column. And now that's probably a good time to go through the hand. So first spell that Yog-Sothoth has... Sign of the Brotherhood. Choose 1 other cult to return 1 of their cultists from the Abyss and place it on their lodge. You return 3 of your cultists from the Abyss and place them in your lodge. So up here in the top, you can see the symbols that we need to have on a location. So if we had a red, and a blue at our location, we could ready that spell. We'd have to discard the column at the end of the turn. Next up, we have Find Gate taking a blue and a yellow. At the start of your turn, draw 1 gate card, regardless of whether you have a gate card already. Normally, you'd be limited to 1 gate card. During the move phase of your turn, you must use this gate card for movement. And Alhazred's Vengeance taking a blue, a yellow, and a white. Reveal when another cultist takes an action that places at least 1 cultist on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. Now, in the curses function differently in the multiplayer game. So the curses basically serve as effects that you can do to screw with other players in this game. Kind of like a Take That, which I normally don't particularly like, but you really can't avoid it in a game like this. In the single-player game, curses really don't do anything, so I think that was on a red symbol. So we'll probably be using that for movement right away, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, although I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, because we're all set to go. So let's go ahead and move up to the board and start into this playthrough for Yog-Sothoth. So I am actually going to go ahead and toss that Alhazred's Vengeance right away, adding a red card to the astral column at the other worlds, and I'm going to move to the library, where there aren't enough investigators there to move to my lodge. So at that point, I'll put a cultist and an investigator on the library. Now, I don't have control of the location. And I'm not particularly interested in temporary control, so I'll perform the basic action, which will let me draw 3 cards, and I'll get to ready a spell for free. I won't get to ready a spell for free. I'll get to ready an additional spell. Or I'll get to ready one additional spell as long as it has the runes to match it. So, first spell Yog-Sothoth finds. Mind Switch. Taking a red and a blue. Swap one of your cultists from any one location with any other cultist at a different location. Probably not that useful. And that might be the gathering might be a good location to move to pretty soon. Next up, Confound, taking a green and 2 red. Move all cultists from one location to an adjacent location, or actually move all investigators from one location to an adjacent location, or destroy all investigators in your lodge. And Witch's Curse, which takes a blue and a yellow. Choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. Alright, nothing I'm particularly interested in, or that I can even ready with just 2 red, I don't think. I wouldn't mind Sign of the Brotherhood, but I would need a blue symbol there to ready it. And yes, the initial symbols that you see on the board do count as symbols at that location. So, as I was mentioning, there is a red on the library, so that would count as an additional symbol, but we don't have anything that can ready with that. So we'll draw a card for end of turn. Yog-Sothoth will draw. Enlighten the Faithful, taking a blue, a white, and a yellow. At the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 of your cultists from any one location to any other location. Alright, so that is the end of the cult's turn. Now the investigators will go, and the way they'll go is they'll discard the top card of the spell deck and move to that location based on the symbol. If they ever try to move into our location, they'll move to the other worlds and will become cursed, which, funnily enough, is happening here. So the cultists will move, so the investigators will actually try to move to the library, but they can't because we're there. So they'll move to the other worlds, and Yog-Sothoth will end up with its first curse. And remember, we need 5 to lose the game. But anyway, that is Yog-Sothoth. Now, where do we want to move? I think I am going to discard Mind Switch, putting it on the astral column at the library to move down to the gathering. So I'll place a cultist there and an investigator. Here, I think I am going to roll for perform the basic action provided by the location. So I will go ahead and gain 3 cultists, gain them into my lodge, and then I'll move one cultist up to the other world's location, mostly because I want to make sure they're there when it comes time to try to start summoning the Ancient One. But the spell that Yog-Sothoth will draw next is Transmogrify, which takes a white and a yellow. Change any one rolled die to any face. If the new face is Tentacle or Cthulhu, become cursed. So not terribly interesting. Is there a hand limit in this game? I should probably find out about that. No hand limit. Okay, good to know. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so then the investigators go, and they'll be moving down to the streets of Arkham, which would initiate a raid immediately, but I don't have any cultists or any investigators in my lodge, so nothing happens there. Let's see what we've got here. I'm going to use a blue card to move over to the museum. And do I want the question is, do I want either of the artifacts? I think I'd rather take my chances on the top of the artifact deck. So Yog-Sothoth finds Forgotten Tome. Exhaust when another cult moves to the library, draw 2 spell cards. So kind of a situational artifact there. I do place a cultist and an investigator, and I'm not really interested in temporary control here either. But anyway, so that will do it for Yog-Sothoth's turn, which means Yog-Sothoth will draw a yellow symbol. Another Confound, taking a white and 2 green. I don't think there was anything that I could have readied for a white and a blue. No, there wasn't. Okay. So that will do it for that turn. The investigators will discard a white spell to move to the ceremony, and nothing happens there. For my turn, okay, so let's discard. Let me just make sure it doesn't discard in the astral column of the current location. So the investigators actually started at the other worlds. Actually, no, they started at the streets of Arkham, trying to move to. So we should have a slightly different configuration. Then discarded that to move to the streets. Wait, no. And then, okay, they discarded this. I'm trying to remember how they discarded. So they were at the. Okay, so one should have been at the. So the red should have been at the streets of Arkham. Then I think the yellow to move back to the streets of Arkham, and then white to move to the ceremony. Okay, now that we got that figured out, I guess I forgot they should have been at the astral location, at the location as well. So what do I want here? I think I will use the transmogrify, because that's not particularly useful, to move over to the gathering, which will get a cultist and another investigator there. The investigators moving to the lodge gets checked for first, so I do need to keep that in mind. But anyway, I get the 3 cultists I get 3 more from the abyss, and then this time I will. So I'll move a cultist over, and this time I will roll for temporary control if I can ever get the dice tower into shot. I think I'll put it over. Let me look at my smaller dice tower actually, because I think that dice tower is probably just a little bit too imposing on the. That dice tower is a little too imposing to go on the main board, so I think we'll just bring this dice tower into shot, and given that the abyss is almost empty of my cultists right now, it's mostly to move another one up to the other world, which might be a tempting idea. We do not get temporary control of the location, which I can deal with in the grand scheme of things, but anyway. Let me look at the spells, or the symbol at the location. We have a green, a yellow, and a blue. Is there anything that I want to prepare? Actually, there's nothing I can prepare with it, so I will draw another yellow card, and this one will be Power Surge that needs a purple there. Until the end of your turn, you control your location, which we could use for movement, but anyway. The investigators are drawing a white symbol, except they're already there, so I think they just moved to the other worlds if they are trying to. Yep, they moved to the other worlds instead, which I kind of wanted to go to in the next turn or two, but can't help that now. Anyway, for our turn, I will discard. I'm actually going to discard a red card. I don't think there's anything that I can really ready right now in terms of spells. No, so I'll actually just use I will use a red card to move up to the library, which will let me draw 3 spell cards, and I can ready an additional one matching the symbols. So our first spell, find artifact for a green and a yellow to draw an artifact from the artifact deck. Next up is Shadow Walk, taking 2 red and a white. At the end of your turn, you may sacrifice 1 cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. And come on, does not want to focus today. There we are. The stars are right, taking a red and 2 blue. Assign each cult, including yours, one of the following. Lose an Elder Sign, gain 2 cultists from the Abyss, gain 2 investigators, and become cursed. But with 2 red and a green, I don't think there's anything that we can ready with that, so we'll just draw a card. So we will draw another yellow. Another Alhazred's Vengeance, which isn't particularly useful for us. But anyway, the investigators are next drawing a yellow card, which will go into the astral column, and they'll move to the streets of Arkham. Since we still have no investigators on our lodge, we won't get raided. But anyway, looking here, I'm going to discard 2 red. We'll discard... Actually, we'll keep that. I'm actually going to discard 2 red, I think. Which, I'm not in love with that idea. I'll discard 2 yellow instead. I'll discard 2 yellow to the library to move up to the Otherworld's location, which I think that works. I think I can do that. Right? Yes. Fate piece must always be moved to a new location. Okay. So, yep, we did move the fate piece there. So we'll place a cultist and an investigator there. And this will be our first chance to get progress on the summoning track. So I have 4 cultists at the location, which means I'll be rolling 4 dice. Would help if I could count. Oop, come on. Alright. Roll that. And we will sacrifice 2 into the Abyss and advance 2 on Yog-Sothoth's summoning track. Okay, and then I actually will go ahead and roll for that's only getting me 1 cultist back. I'm actually not going to bother with that. I was thinking about trying to roll for temporary control, but I'm not going to bother with that. So, Yog-Sothoth will draw Coerce the Innocent, moving up to 2, taking a green, a yellow, and a blue. Moving up to 2 investigators from any 1 location to any lodge. Not all that useful in a solo game. And then from the streets of Arkham, they will discard a white card to move back to the ceremony. Then back to our turn. We've actually got plenty of... I don't think there was anything I could have readied. Oh yeah, there was actually. We're going to pretend that I forgot to do this. For a yellow symbol, I'm actually going to, for a purple symbol at the location, it's kind of a waste, but I am going to ready Power Surge. So until the end of my turn, I control my current location, which also means I have to discard everything there. I should have been paying more attention to do this at the end of the turn, but anyway. Where do I want to go this turn? Green and a yellow. So I kind of want to... I think at the risk of... Is there something better? Blue and a yellow, huh? Let's see, blue... Is there anything that's got blue, yellow, white? I don't think so. There's green. There is green, yellow. Sorry, I'm thinking here what I want to do. Yeah, I think I will discard a green card to the other worlds, and I'll move to the library. So I will end up with all three of these investigators in my lodge, which could be a risky play, but... So it also lets me place a cultist there and another investigator. And I get to move one. I'll move one to the other worlds again, and I will roll for temporary control this time. Mostly to try to move another one to the other worlds. I do not get temporary control of the location. So this time I'm not going to be a derp and remember to prepare a spell. So what do we have there? We have red, yellow, blue, and green. Let's see, red, yellow, blue, and green. So I will... yeah. I will actually go ahead and prepare Coerce the Innocent. So I can move up to 2 investigators from any one location or lodge to any actually to any lodges. That's not that useful. Because remember, this is a solo game, but I will prepare Find Gate. There is a blue and a yellow there, so that'll let me, at the start of my turn, draw 1 gate card, regardless of whether I have a gate card already. During the move phase of my turn, I have to use that gate card for movement. So I'll prepare that, discarding all of these, and then Yog-Sothoth will draw. Call the Wicked Ones, taking a red and 2 blue. Summon a monster and become cursed. Now, monsters generally aren't recommended for solo games, but I'm going to experiment with them if I have to in this playthrough to see how, in this tournament, to see how they work. But anyway, from the ceremony, the investigators will discard a blue to move up to the museum. So you can see the ancient one, or the investigators, are mostly just kind of moving around and hassling us. But anyway, wasn't there okay, there is a green and a yellow, so I will discard a red card at the gathering to move up to the museum, which will let me draw 3 spells and ready an additional one. But before I do that, I place a cultist and an investigator there. Control of the library means I can sacrifice a cultist from the library to ready a spell at no cost, which might be tempting, but anyway. 3 cards there. So card 1 is a Power Surge, which we have prepared already. Until the end of your turn, you control your location. Card 2 does not want to focus. It is a blue symbol. Call of the Wicked Ones, which we saw taking 2 green, or a green and 2 white. And card 3 an Ancient Stirring, taking 3 red. Advance 1 on the summoning track. You may sacrifice one of your cultists at the current altar location to advance 1 more on the track. This time I will roll for temporary control of the location. Grab a die. I do not get temporary control of the location, which is rather unfortunate, but anyway, what do we have? Yellow, green, and 2 red. Let's see, yellow, green, and 2 red. Nothing there that nothing that I can ready there. So the investigators will draw. Cubes of Power. When you're rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to the roll. Then the investigators at the museum will discard a white card to move to the ceremony, and keeping that out of my way. Let's discard a... What happens if we discard the matching symbol? I don't think we can, so let's see what I want to do here. I will discard a blue... I'll discard a blue symbol there to move to the museum. Place a cultist and an investigator. So I am in danger of having a raid go off, but do I want temporary control here? I think I want the... Once again, I think I will take True Magic. This will let me... I can exhaust this to discard a spell in my reserve, then draw the top spell and immediately ready it for free. Do I think I have anything? No, I'm planning to use that next turn. But anyway, the replacement artifact at the museum, Amulet of Nephrin Ka. As I can exhaust to change one lesser elder sign to a tentacle, or destroy it to change all of them. But anyway, that will do it for my turn. Before we take the investigator's next turn, I need to take a small break. Actually, Yog-Sothoth didn't draw for turn yet, so Yog-Sothoth will draw. Sign of the Brotherhood. We've seen this earlier. This version takes 2 green and a red to prepare. But anyway, investigator's next turn, they'll discard a red symbol from at the ceremony to move up to the library, and then I will exhaust the Forgotten Tome to draw 2 spells. So I'll be drawing both blue symbols. First up, Alhazred's Vengeance, which is not that useful. This version happens to take red, green, and a white, but not that useful in the solo game. And Enthrall. Choose one location that another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location. Except I'd probably use that toward the investigators, because that's how... Because they're basically, I guess, the other cult in the game. But anyway, what's this other blue spell? Shadow Walk. Sacrifice a cultist and immediately become cursed. I don't think that's that useful. So I'm going to discard 2 blues at the museum to move up to the other worlds. And here I will use... Actually, I'll unexhaust the artifact. And I'll cast Power Surge. So at the end of my turn, until the end of my turn, I control my current location. Which I actually would control that anyway, because I have 3 cultists there, and I have more than the investigators. That check actually, I think, happens. Yeah, so I placed my 4th cultist and the 3rd investigator. So I'm going to be rolling 4 dice, but this time I have control of the location. So for every Cthulhu I roll on this location, I'll get to return one of those cultists back to my lodge, I think. Yep, for each Cthulhu roll, I return one of my cultists from the abyss to the lodge. Okay. So wow, that was a terrible roll. So I do advance 1 on the summon track, and only sacrifice 1 cultist to the abyss. I don't actually get to return that cultist because I didn't roll a Cthulhu symbol. With a wild card and with a purple and a green there, I don't think there's much that I really want. Actually, there is something I can do. I can go ahead and prepare another Power Surge, which I will do. So I'll discard that green symbol. And then I'll draw another spell, so I will draw Enlighten the Investigators. Cast when a cult discards a monster token. That cult places 2 investigators in their lodge. we'll probably use that to just destroy 2 investigators being placed on the lodge. But anyway, from the library, the investigators will discard another white symbol to move back to the ceremony. Then for our turn, do we have to risk a raid? I think we do. So I will discard I'll discard a blue symbol to move back to the library. All of the investigators move to my lodge, and then because there are actually 6 cultists on, or there are actually 6 investigators on the lodge. So, actually, okay, so never mind. They don't attack until a raid is initiated, which actually will be at the end of my turn. So then if I do place a cultist there and another investigator, I do control the location, but I do want the Amulet of Nephrin Ka. So once again, I can exhaust that to change 1 lesser Elder Sign to a tentacle, or destroy it to change all of them. So we'll draw this out, and we'll find Scepter of the Elders. I can exhaust to sacrifice 1 cultist from any location to flip 1 of my dice to the opposite face. And with the control action at the museum, I can discard and replace the artifact deck, sacrificing up to 3 cultists from the museum to destroy 1 Elder Sign from any 1 lodge for each cultist sacrificed in this way, which I'm not that interested in, and I'm going to leave the artifact deck alone. But anyway, now after we draw the spell, actually, let me look at the symbols here. So we've got 3 blue, 2 white, and a green. 3 blue, 2 white, and a green. I don't think there's anything I want to prepare right now, so I'll bring the dice tower into shot because our lodge is getting raided. So I need 4 dice. What did I do with 4 dice are right here. So on a raid, so either Elder Sign gets me an Elder Sign on my summon track, but a greater Elder Sign means 1 investigator per roll stays. Actually, I should have 6 dice. So I'm hoping we don't just get a terrible roll. That's actually not a terrible roll. So 3 get destroyed, but we do end up with 3 Elder Signs because we got 3. We did get 3 lesser Elder Signs, but we destroyed 3 cultists because of the 3 tentacles we rolled. Fortunately, though, all of the investigators do go away. So yeah, that was kind of a bad result, but it could have been a lot worse. Because I've had rolls in this game where I've ended up with like 4 greater Elder Signs. I've ended up with a lot of greater Elder Signs, and it has not been pretty. But anyway. Okay, so the investigators now move to we'll discard a yellow symbol to move to the streets of Arkham, and thankfully we just got raided, so there are no more investigators to have raid there. Anyway, right. So I think I will discard so from the museum, I think I will discard actually we could discard a white card to move down to the ceremony. I'll place a cultist there and an investigator. I get a gate card which I can use either for movement or basically for wild movement. And I will roll for, let's see, actually before I do that, I'll look at a spell card from any location's astral column where I can choose to ready it or at no cost or discard it. So I'll go ahead and take a look at the red spell here at the Gathering. So the spell here. Enlighten the Faithful. At the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 of your cultists from any one location to any other location. Actually, I will ready that, because I can use that immediately. So I will ready that at no cost, which actually doesn't count toward my limit. But I think I will ultimately use that immediately, so I can move up to 3 of my cultists from any one location to any other location. So I will move 3 cultists from the museum up to the other worlds. I'm going to basically, my plan here is I'm going to try to win this game in almost one shot. But anyway, is there a spell I want to prepare here? I think I will prepare. I think I will prepare Coerce the Innocent, which takes a blue, a green, and a yellow. So I can move up to 2 cultists from any one location or lodge to any lodge. Which actually, I keep forgetting that's not actually that useful. But I will go ahead and, even though it's going to be a waste, I will prepare Find Artifact. Let me just draw an artifact from the artifact deck. It does discard everything, but that sometimes can't be helped. And then draw for turn will be Call of the Wicked Ones. So once again, summon a monster and become cursed. The investigators are going to draw a blue card at the streets of Arkham to move up to the museum. Then for my turn, from the ceremony, I will use this gate card that I just drew to move up to the other worlds. The 3 investigators do end up on my lodge. I'll place a cultist and an investigator. This time I'm rolling 7 dice. I don't even have to worry about casting Power Surge, because I definitely control my location. 6 and 7. Okay, so 7 dice in the cup. We'll go ahead and roll this out, and I do control my location, so I need at least, actually I need this to be a big roll. I need at least 6 to summon Yog-Sothoth outright. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I will destroy the Amulet of Nephron Ka to change all Lesser Elder Signs to tentacles, which actually works out very well, because with 7 tentacles, that means I get to sacrifice all 7 of my cultists to the Abyss, advancing on the summon track. 1, 2, 3, 4. I do hit an Elder Sign, and the first time that happens, you'll gain a curse. 5, 6, and Yog-Sothoth has actually been summoned. So, yes, come on, keyboard. Yes, Yog-Sothoth is summoned. Yog-Sothoth had 3 curses, or 3 Elder Signs and 2 curses. So that was actually a surprisingly clean summon on Yog-Sothoth. So the bar has been set pretty high for Group 1 in the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament. But anyway, that will do it for this playthrough of Yog-Sothoth. Now I need to reset the board so we can do the same thing with Hastur. The board has been reset with Hastur for Hastur's playthrough. So the King in Yellow is obviously going to be using the Yellow Cultist. We saw Yog-Sothoth using green earlier. Let's take a look at our starting artifacts for Hastur's playthrough. So first up, the Enchanted Cane, which we can exhaust to reroll one of our dice. And Runic Chalk. While Runic Chalk is in play, increase your spell reserve by 1. Discard this relic to ready a spell for free. So, yeah, once again, the board's all been reset. So let's drop down and meet the King in Yellow. Hastur's dark gift is Dance of the Outer Gods. Starting from the ceremony and proceeding clockwise, you may roll 1 die for each location on the altar where you have a cultist present. For each tentacle or Cthulhu, place 1 cultist from your lodge on that location and move 1 investigator from there to any other location. Then we'll take a look at Hastur's starting hand. We see 2 yellows and a blue to start with, which is not great for movement. But anyway, first spell up. Does not want to focus today. Alhazred's Vengeance, which we saw earlier, takes a blue, green, and white. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 investigator on your lodge, that cult becomes cursed. Our other yellow, which I may chuck these for movement. Coerce the Innocent. Move up to 2 investigators from any 1 location or lodge to any lodges. And Command, which takes a purple and a red. Move a monster in a location or lodge to any other location or lodge. Alright, so now that we're all set up there, let's move up to the board and get Hastur's playthrough started. So as I alluded to, I am going to toss the 2 yellow cards at the other worlds to move down to the Gathering. So that places a cultist on the Gathering and places 1 there. So I'll get 3 back from the Abyss, and I'll move 1 up to the other worlds. And then I am going to go ahead and roll for temporary control, just so I can start maybe moving another 1. Because remember, Yog-Sothoth actually set a fairly high bar in the first playthrough of the tournament. He got summoned pretty cleanly, with only 3 Elder Signs and 2 curses. So it would behoove Hastur and Ithaqua to move pretty quickly. Hastur does not get temporary control of the location, which is rather unfortunate. But anyway, we had to try for it. So first we'd see if we can prepare a spell, which for a purple and a red we can't. So Hastur will draw. Enthrall for 2 yellow. Choose a location that another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location. Then the investigators will try to move to the streets of Arkham, except they're already there. So they'll move to the other worlds instead, which I don't think... Place 1 investigator at the new location, so I actually wasn't doing that. But anyway. So we'll place an investigator at the other worlds. I wasn't paying attention to that, but I wasn't aware of it. So I'm not going to replay Yog-Sothoth because of that. But anyway. Moving back to my turn... This blue isn't that particularly useful, so I'm going to discard that at the Gathering to move over to the museum. Do I want either of these artifacts? I think I do want the Enchanted Cane, which can give me a reroll, if nothing else. My spell takes 2 yellow, and that's not particularly useful anyway. So we'll draw another spell. Hastur will draw. Witch's Curse takes a blue and a yellow. Choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. Okay, and then the investigators will discard a green, moving over to the Gathering and placing an investigator there. Then Hastur has to discard the red to move to a different location at the library, which is actually kind of welcome, honestly, because we need spell cards badly. So 1, 2, and 3. First spell up. Broken Seal, which takes 3 blue. I destroy any 1 Elder Sign. I may sacrifice a cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more Elder Sign. Corruption, taking a blue and a white. I do need to place the cultist and the investigator there. Anyway, now that we've got that straight... Either sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge or become cursed. Then you may advance 1 on the summon track or destroy 2 Elder Signs from your lodge. That could be useful. And Necessary Evil. Gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. And then I get to ready one additional spell this turn for the basic action. Do I care about temporary control? Actually, I might care about temporary. Actually, I kind of do care about temporary control at this location. So I will go ahead and try to roll for temporary control. Which I don't get with a greater elder sign. Actually, I can exhaust my enchanted cane to re-roll that. Still don't get temporary control, but anyway. So I can't do anything with the red and a green there. So I will just go ahead and draw a new spell. So Hastur will find Power Surge. Until the end of the turn, you control your current location, which we saw that earlier. Then the investigators will draw a yellow location, or a yellow card, to move to the streets of Arkham. We'd immediately get raided, except there's nobody there, except we have no investigators in our lodge. But they do place another investigator there. From the library, I'll actually discard another green card. Actually, will I discard another green, or... No, I think I'll discard a white card to move to the ceremony, which will put a cultist down there and another investigator. And I get to trigger my dark gift. So starting from the ceremony and proceeding clockwise, I may roll a die for each location on the altar where I have a cultist present. And I have cultists present at all of them. For each tentacle or Cthulhu rolled, I place one cultist from my lodge on that location and move one investigator from there to any other location. So I'll bring the dice tower in shot. I'll start from the ceremony and proceed clockwise. So the location I really want to get a cultist at is actually the other worlds for obvious reasons, but I can place cultists everywhere right now. So at the ceremony, lesser elder sign, so no dice there. Streets of Arkham. Gets a cultist, and I can move an investigator. I'll move to the museum. The gathering, I wouldn't mind moving a cultist off of, or an investigator off of there at all. Because I've got a couple cards that let me move there. Nope. The library's up next. I forgot to exhaust my artifact. Or forgot to unexhaust it, I should say. A Cthulhu gets a cultist there and moves an investigator. I'm just going to turn the museum into an ungodly mess. Then at the other worlds, here it might be worth exhausting the enchanted cane to roll again. Which I will do. And get to place a cultist there, and I'll move to the museum. And then I will actually not roll for the museum, because that's a you may effect. I do get a gate card, but I will roll for temporary control at the ceremony. Which I don't get. That's unfortunate. And then with a red and a white, there isn't anything I can ready there. So I'll bring my laser pointer down. And then for the next spell, Hastur will draw another power surge with a purple. Okay. Alright, then the investigators from the Streets of Arkham will discard a red card to move up to the library and place a new investigator there. Let's see, what do we want to do? I think I think I'll discard a green card at the ceremony to move over to the gathering, which does bring all the cultists to my lodge. Or the investigators, I should say. Cultist to the gathering, investigator to the lodge. I'll move one to the other worlds per the basic action. Forgot to go and exhaust my artifact. Then temporary control is something that I would like. Which I get. So I can move another cultist, and I'll move him up to the other world's location. So fortunately I didn't need to use a reroll there. What do we have there for symbols? We've got a green, 2 blue, and a yellow. Which I can't do anything with, because I don't think I don't think 2 spells at the same location count for gate cards in the astral columns and the other are wild for readying spells. Becoming 2 symbols of the same type cannot be used as a wild to pay the cost for spells. Okay, that's what I thought. So yeah, there's nothing I can really do there, which means Hastur will draw. Call the Wicked Ones. Taking a blue and 2 green, summon a monster and become cursed. Then the investigators will discard from the library a blue card to move over to the museum, which will put another investigator there. I don't get rated at the end of my turn until I have 5 investigators on the lodge. But anyway, from the gathering, Hastur will then use a gate card to move to the other worlds, placing another cultist and an investigator there. So I'll get to perform the basic action, which will be 6 dice, to try to summon these cultists, or to try to sacrifice these cultists to potentially summon Hastur. I've got 6 dice right there. That is a very terrible result. So I do get to sacrifice 1 cultist to advance 1 on Hastur's summoning track. That is very unfortunate. We do control the location outright, but that doesn't even matter because we only rolled 1 tentacle symbol there. Actually, I could have rolled 1 of my dice, which I actually will go ahead and exhaust that. I'll bring the dice tower back into shot to re-roll 1 of my dice. And we get to sacrifice a 2nd cultist to move on the summoning track. Controlling the location outright, like I said, doesn't do anything for me because I didn't roll any Cthulhu's on that roll anyway. I think, though, I will prepare... Do I have anything to prepare at this point? I think the only thing I could prepare is a power surge, which might not be the worst thing in the world. So until the end of my turn, I control my location, which gets all of this discarded. And then Hastur will draw an Enthrall for 2 white. Choose a location that another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists at that location. Except, like I said, I'd probably use that to destroy investigators. But anyway, from the museum, the investigators will discard a red symbol to move over to the library and place another cultist there. Anyway, what do we want to do here? I will discard a... I will discard 2 blue. I really don't want to risk getting raided here because that would be... I don't want to move to the museum because that would be a very dangerous play. So, do I just destroy? Do I just sacrifice these? I think... I definitely want to discard the 2 blue. The question is, where do I want to move to? Return 2 of my investigators back to the supply. So I think I will discard 2 blue to move to the streets of Arkham to return 2 of these cultists. So I'm not in potentially hazardous danger of a raid. I get a cultist there, and 1 of those investigators comes back to the streets. I do have temporary control. I do have control of the location. So I could sacrifice 1 to remove an additional investigator from the lodge, and I think I will. Which might... Oh, I forgot to replace the artifact that I drew so long ago. So, second artifact at the library, at the museum, should have been... Lamp of Alhazred. Roll 3 dice. For each elder sign of any kind, gain 1. Then immediately take another turn, but that's on a discard effect. So... Yeah, I'll sacrifice 1 more to return another... Remove 1 additional investigator from my lodge. That makes the museum a bit more attractive because the raid isn't going to be so dangerous. 2 yellow, 2 red doesn't let me do anything there. So I will draw... Sign of the Brotherhood. Taking 2 green and a red. Choose 1 other cult to return 1 of their cultists from the Abyss and place it on their lodge. You return 3 from the Abyss and place them in your lodge. Okay, then the investigators will discard a green card from the library to move down to the gathering and place a cult and investigator there. Well, I think I will discard another red card here to move up to the library, which will let me draw 3 cards and I can ready an additional spell. With 2 green, a red, a blue, and a white. So I draw 3 cards. First spell up. I forgot to place a... So the investigators actually do move to the lodge. And I place a 4th investigator there and the library. I will have control of the location outright. So Hastur draws. Enlighten the Faithful. At the end of your turn, you may move up to 3 of your investigators from any one location to any other location. Oh my, that could actually be very useful. And I forgot to unexhaust the artifact again. Then, Shadow Walk. At the end of my turn, I may immediately sacrifice a cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. That takes 2 yellows and a blue, which I could move to the gathering and prepare that there, but getting ahead of myself there. And Dark Pact. Become cursed to prevent gaining all elder signs from a single source. I do control the location outright, so I could sacrifice a cultist to ready a spell at no cost, and I think that might be worthwhile, because we're not doing much with... Actually, looking at the hand... Okay, yeah, so I will go ahead and ready... So I'll go ahead and ready Corruption for a blue and a white. And then I'll sacrifice a cultist to ready a spell at no additional cost. So I'll ready Enlighten the Faithful. So at the end of my turn, I can move up to 3 cultists from any one location to any other location. Which I will immediately use that. I'll immediately use Enlighten the Faithful so I can move these 3 cultists up to the other worlds. Question is, can I get there this turn? And the answer is yes. What about the spells I have prepared? I'd have to become cursed to do that. But I think that's probably worth the risk. So I'll also cast Corruption, which I just prepared. These are all discarded, by the way. I will have to become cursed. Then I can advance 1 on the summon track or destroy 2 elder signs from my lodge. So Hastur will pick up his first curse, but he will advance 1 more on the summon track. Anyway, the investigator's next turn will take them back over to the museum from the gathering and place another investigator there. Thankfully, I only have 3 investigators on the lodge, so I don't get raided. Anyway, then I will discard 2 white from the library to move up to the other worlds. So I don't have a cultist there, and I think I can gain... I think I gain 2 from the Abyss, 1 onto my lodge, 1 onto the onto the location, but I gain an Elder Sign as a penalty. So I will take an Elder Sign for that, but I'll place an investigator on the lodge. However, I am rolling 9 dice here. So Hastur could potentially end up getting summoned right here. So 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll find out how this goes, though. I do have a reroll in case I need it. That one was at the gathering. Okay, I will exhaust the Enchanted Cane to re-roll one of my dice. Okay, that is 3. So that's 3 cultists I get to summon, or I get to sacrifice. So 1, 2, 3. I did exhaust the artifact to re-roll, the Enchanted Cane. And then I still have control of the location, so I get to return 2 of those cultists. I get to return 2 cultists to the lodge. Yes, because I rolled 2 Cthulhu's in there. So Hastur's actually moving along pretty well. But anyway, 2 blue and a purple, and I will actually prepare Power Surge while I'm here, because I need a purple at the location. So until the end of my turn, I would control the current location. Right, so those get discarded. I think I've got 2 Power Surges ready, don't I? Yes. Alright, so Hastur will draw up. Hastur will draw a yellow. Corruption. Same thing we had earlier. But anyway, I'll unexhaust that. And then before the investigators take their next turn, I need to take a small break. For their next turn, from the museum, the Ancient One, or the investigators, will discard a white card to move down to the ceremony. Then looking at Hastur, I want this corruption, but I ultimately have to discard it so I can move. I will discard a yellow card to move down to the streets of Arkham, placing a cultist and another investigator. So, do I care about temporary control? I will move 2 cultists off the streets of Arkham. And I don't think I care about temporary control, actually, of the Abyss, or of the streets of Arkham. So I'll draw my next spell card. So Hastur will draw Alter Fate. I can reroll either re-roll up to 3 of my dice, say that 5 times fast, or 1 of my dice up to 3 times. Then the investigators will discard a green card at the ceremony to move to the gathering. Anyway, my turn. I actually don't mind this at all. I'll discard a white card, which I don't particularly find useful right now, to move over to the ceremony, which will put a cultist on the location and 1 on the one on the ceremony. I will get a gate card, which I'll probably be using for movement next turn. Then I trigger Hastur's Dark Gift. I think I'll skip the ceremony. Then I'll skip the streets of Arkham. Then the gathering, because that's a May for each location. The library I won't roll. The other worlds I will, though. tentacle, so I get to place a cultist there and move one into the library, which is an ungodly mess right now. And then we'll have to skip the museum because I have no more cultists there. But anyway, so I don't get to prepare. So I don't have any spells I can prepare that take a white, a red, and 2 green. So I'll draw this card, which means I will draw. Actually, wait, no, I do actually want temporary control of this location, which I think I rolled that already, so I didn't get it. But anyway, they will draw Mind Switch, so I can swap one of my cultists from any one location with any other cultist at a different location. Then the investigators will discard a green card to try to move to the gathering, except they're there already, so they move to the other worlds instead. And then since I want no part of the museum at the ceremony with, what is that, 2, 4, 6, 7 cultists, 7 investigators there, I'll bin 2 blues to move to the gathering. Except I don't have a cultist there, so I get 2 back from the abyss, 1 to the location, 1 to my lodge, and Hastur takes another elder sign as a penalty, gains a cultist, and then I'll move 1 to the other world's location. Then I'll draw 2 spell cards, since I have none in hand right now, right? I think it's... Yes, if I have less than 3, continue... Oh, so I draw up to 3. Okay, so I guess I haven't been paying attention to that either. Derp. Alright, so the first card... Witch's Curse with a white, taking red and a blue, choosing a cult. That cult becomes cursed. Then... Come on. Call of the Wicked Ones, taking a green and 2 white, with a blue symbol on the back, summon a monster and become cursed. And... Find Gate, taking a blue and a yellow. At the start of your turn, draw 1 gate card, regardless of whether you have a gate card already. During the move phase of your turn, you must use this gate card for movement. Then the investigators from the other worlds will discard a yellow card, moving to the streets of Arkham, placing a cultist on the location, and I immediately get raided with one investigator. So this isn't going to be much of a raid, most likely. Alright, so I do end up with a 3rd elder sign, but the investigator leaves the lodge, which is fortunate for us. Which is actually even more fortunate because from the gathering, I'll get to use this gate card to move up to the other worlds. Now, I do end up taking another elder sign and penalty to get a cultist back. 1 in the cult, 1 in the location, 1 in the lodge. The cultist moves to the lodge. There's 1 there. I have 8 dice I'm rolling there, so Hastur should be able to get summoned. But this won't be good for Hastur because even if Hastur gets summoned here, 2, 4, 6, 8, based on tiebreakers, Yog-Sothoth will still be in the lead. Hastur also takes his 2nd curse from the first time the summon track hits his elder sign limit. Two, 4, 5. So Hastur gets to sacrifice 5 cultists and advance 5 on the summoning track. So Hastur does get summoned, but once again, come on keyboard. Hastur had 4 elder signs and 2 curses. So Hastur did get summoned, but because of tiebreakers, Yog-Sothoth actually ends up still in the lead. But anyway, that will do it for Hastur. Now I need to reset the board once again for Ithaqua. Ithaqua is in a tight spot here. So both Yog-Sothoth and Hastur did get summoned, but Yog-Sothoth only did it with taking 3 elder signs, whereas Hastur took 4. They both took 2 curses, but Yog-Sothoth is currently in the lead because of Elder Signs. So Ithaqua needs to get summoned and take only 2 Elder Signs to advance to the winners group. Otherwise, Yog-Sothoth will advance. But anyway, let's take a look at the starting artifacts for Ithaqua. Ithaqua finds Chamber's Journal. Exhaust to choose any location, then roll a die. On a cultist, on a Cthulhu, or a tentacle, add 1 investigator from your lodge to that location. Right, yes. On an elder sign, add 1 investigator from that location to your lodge. That could be treacherous. And Jade Statue. Destroy it. If you're at the other world, reroll it to 2 of your dice. So if we're trying to get summoned quickly, that might be an artifact worth having. But anyway, let's move over and see what Ithaqua has for a Dark Gift and his starting hand. Ithaqua's Dark Gift relates to these Winter Squall tokens, with Wendigo. Remove all Winter Squall tokens from the altar. Shuffle all Winter Squall tokens, draw 3, and look at them. Place the tokens on 3 different locations, face down. Destroy 1 investigator or cultist from each of those locations, so investigator in other words. When any cult activates a location with a Winter Squall token, reveal the squall and apply the effect. Then discard that token. But anyway, Ithaqua's opening hand on a red symbol. Sign of the Brotherhood, taking 2 blue and a green. Choose 1 other cult to return 1 of their cultists from the abyss and place it on their lodge. You return 3. Another red. Broken Seal. Destroy any 1 elder sign. You may sacrifice 1 cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more. That also takes 3 red. And on a white, red and a blue for Witch's Curse. Choose a cult. That cult becomes cursed. Anyway, that's Ithaqua all set up. Now let's move back to the board and get started with Ithaqua's playthrough. Since drawing cards is always a good thing to do, Ithaqua will discard a red card to move over to the library and draw 3 cards. There's a red and a yellow there, so Ithaqua would be able to ready an additional spell this turn using that pool, but everything gets discarded, so Ithaqua will draw. After we place a cultist and an investigator. I always forget about the order of these things. So on a red, Ithaqua finds another Witch's Curse. This one takes a blue and a yellow. Then on a red, Mind Switch, taking a blue and a green. Swap 1 of your cultists from any location with any other cultist at a different location, which isn't that useful here. And on a yellow, Broken Seal, which takes 3 yellow. Destroy any 1 elder sign. You may sacrifice 1 cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more. So I'm actually not interested in readying any spells I have in my hand right now, which means Ithaqua will draw. Coerce the Innocent. Taking a blue, a green, and a yellow. Move up to 2 investigators from 1 location or lodge to any lodges. Not that useful, but the investigators will then draw a blue symbol to move up to the museum, placing a cultist there. And so it begins. Alright, then, looking at Ithaqua's hand, I will use 2 white, because I'm not terribly interested in the Dark Gift there, to move over to the Gathering. So I'll place a cultist and an investigator, gain 3 back from the Abyss, and move 1 over to the Lodge. I will roll for temporary control, because like I said, with Ithaqua being in the position with tiebreakers he needs to work fast. He does not get temporary control, which is kind of a disappointment, but With a green and a red, I don't think there's anything there. Nope, nothing there I can ready right now. So Ithaqua will draw on a red. Enlighten the investigators. Cast when a cult discards a monster token. That cult places 2 investigators in their lodge. And the investigators will try to move to the museum, except they're already there. So they'll discard that, move to the other worlds instead, and place an investigator there. Then what are we doing? Actually, I think we just use 2 red to move up to the museum, because I do want that jade statue. I'm sure we're going to end up needing that when we go to try to make the summon on... I'm sure we're going to need that when we go to try to make the summon. So replacing that will be Wizard's Grimoire. Your minimum hand size is 5. Ooh, that could be useful. Anyway, with 2 blue and a yellow, I don't think there's anything we can particularly use. So Ithaqua will draw on a green. Power Surge. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. Alright, and the investigators from the other worlds will discard a red to move over to the library, placing an investigator there. Let's look at our hand. From the museum, I will discard 2 red to move to the other worlds, placing a cultist and an investigator there. Then we'll roll 3 dice. I'm not going to bother with the jade statue here, because I don't expect this to go well, but we'll find out. We get 1 Cthulhu, so we get to advance, so we get to sacrifice a cultist to advance 1 on the summon track. I'm not going to bother with the reroll, but I do want to roll for temporary control, just so I can see if I can... I don't think I need temporary control, actually. I've got a lot of cultists in my lodge right now. But I will go ahead and prepare Power Surge on a purple. Until the end of my turn, I control my current location, which does discard everything there, but that can't be helped. So I do draw up, now that I'm actually remembering to pay attention to this. So on a white, Ithaqua find artifact for a green and a yellow. Draw 1 artifact from the artifact deck. And on a yellow, Gate to the Past. At the end of any other cult's turn, you may sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge to take the current location's basic action. If we could get to the lodge, or we could get to the gathering and prepare that, that would be amazing. But I'm getting ahead of myself there, because the investigators are actually moving to the gathering. And then placing an investigator on the lodge, or on the gathering. Then from the other worlds, I will discard 2... Actually, I'll discard... Oh, I don't want to discard that either, but I'm not particularly interested in going to the... The problem is I'm not interested in going to the streets of Arkham, but some of these spells are really good, so... I think I'll just discard the... And my my Dark Gift isn't actually that great, to be honest, but I could use it to clear out some cultists. So I think I'll just discard the yellow for now to move to the streets of Arkham, which places a cultist and an investigator there. I don't have any any investigators right now in my lodge, so that's, like I said, that's kind of a waste of a card, but I definitely want to hold on to some of my good stuff. But anyway, looking at the card we draw on a blue symbol, Alhazred's Vengeance, which will probably get binned for movement. Reveal when another cult takes an action and places at least one cultist in your lodge, that cult becomes cursed. Then the investigators will discard on a white at the gathering to move over to the ceremony and place another investigator there. And then Ithaqua will bin the aforementioned Alhazred's Vengeance on a blue to move up to the museum, which moves the 3 investigators to the lodge, but it places another one there and a cultist there as well. And I will snap up the Wizard's Grimoire. And then replacing that, I think the artifact limit is, what, 2 or 4? I will have to look. Can hold a maximum of 3 artifacts. Okay, never mind. So replacing the Wizard's Grimoire is a mistranslated manuscript. Destroy to cancel a raid. Choose another cult and initiate a raid on their lodge. Then roll a die. On an Elder Sign result, become cursed. And then I do have control of the location. I can sacrifice up to 3 cultists from the museum, which I don't have any Elder Signs anyway. What do we have for spell symbols? There are 2 blue, 2 red, and a yellow. Nothing I can prepare there, but because of the Wizard's Grimoire, I will get to draw 3 cards. So drawing first on a red will be Alter Fate, so I can reroll up to 3 of my dice, or either up to 3 of my dice once, or up to 1 3 times. On a green, Mind Switch, which lets me swap cultist locations, which doesn't really help me at all. And on a blue, Confound, so I can move all cultists from one location to an adjacent location, or destroy all investigators in my lodge. Then the investigators from the ceremony will discard a yellow to move down to the streets of Arkham and initiate a raid. So I'll place an investigator there, and then initiate a raid on my lodge with 3 dice. Two Elder Signs, but all 3 investigators leave. So this is actually perilous for Ithaqua right now in terms of the tournament, because remember, Yog-Sothoth only took 3 Elder Signs. So he would need to be able to get summoned right now with no further Elder Signs, but I'm not so sure that's happening. Anyway, getting a little bit ahead of myself there. I will discard I'll actually discard a green card from the museum, which this is a very risky play. This will give me 3 investigators in the lodge. But I'll place a cultist and an investigator there. I gain 3 back, and I can move 1 from the museum, or from the gathering, to the other worlds, and I will roll for temporary control. Which I don't get, so that's rather unfortunate. And there is a spell I was really hoping to get to. Yeah, so with 2... Actually, no, that's... Never mind, that... Actually, there's still a very useful spell that I can prepare, though. I'll go ahead and prepare Confound, and then I'll immediately cast it. So I can move all investigators from one location to an adjacent location, or destroy all investigators in my lodge. Bye-bye, investigators in my lodge. So those get discarded, and then Ithaqua will draw up. So 4, 5. Then Ithaqua will draw on a blue symbol, another Mind Switch, taking a green and a white. And on a blue symbol, Broken Seal, which this might actually be worth trying to prepare, but there's nowhere with 3 blue on the board. Anyway, the investigators will then discard a yellow symbol, trying to move to the streets of Arkham, except they're there already. So they'll move to the other worlds and put an investigator there. Then for my turn, I will... The artifacts aren't that interesting. There is a... I'll actually discard 2 blue from there to move up to the library, which this is actually a dangerous... Well, actually, no, this isn't risky because we just got rid of the investigators at the lodge. So I'll place 1 there and an investigator here. So I'll draw 3 spells, and I do have control of the location, so I will be able to prepare an additional spell this turn, which with a red, yellow, 2 white, and a green, there should be some good stuff I can cast. But anyway, on a green symbol, Sign of the Brotherhood, which we can't prepare there. We've seen that before. You can pause to read if you like. On another green symbol, Find a Gate, which we can prepare, and I'm tempted to. Plus with control, I can sacrifice a cultist to ready a spell at no charge. And Cubes of Power. When I'm rolling, I may add 2 additional dice to this roll. I can ready 1 additional spell this turn. I do have control of the location, so I will prepare... I'll prepare... yeah. Is there a spell I want to prepare for no cost? Yes, there is, actually. I'll sacrifice a cultist to prepare Gate to the Past. So at the end of any other cult's turn, I may sacrifice 2 from my lodge to take the current location's basic action. Alright, and then preparing at the end of the turn, I will prepare... that one is a Power Surge, I believe. Yep, so... Right. Actually, that was probably... No, I wouldn't have been able to pay that cost anyway, so never mind. I guess I will just prepare a Find Gate. So at the start of my turn, I can draw a Gate card, which I have to use for movement. So I draw that, and then I'll draw a card on a yellow. I will find another Cubes of Power, which also, these should all be discarded. So from the other worlds, the investigators will discard a blue symbol to move over to the museum and place another investigator at the location. My turn, I will... this could be a problem. I will actually... I just prepared a Find Gate, didn't I? Yes, I did. So I'll draw a Gate card, which I have to use for movement. The only question is, where am I moving to? The question is, where am I moving to? I think I will move to the... Do I want to move to the ceremony, potentially, to try to destroy some of the cultists at the other worlds? Yeah, I think I do. So I'll move to the... Actually, I can't do that because I already have a gate. I'll move to the Gathering, which will place a cultist and another investigator. Give me 3 back and move 1. And then I do want temporary control of the location if I can get it. I'm going to have to move to the other worlds pretty soon and risk just losing the risk Ithaqua being eliminated from the tournament. I do not get temporary control of the location, which is rather unfortunate. But let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I'll go ahead and draw a card here. So on a blue symbol, Ithaqua will find Enlighten the Investigators, taking a red and a white. And then the investigators from the museum will discard a yellow card to move to the streets of Arkham, which will put another investigator out and initiate a raid with 3 investigators in my lodge. So, right now, Ithaqua's position is perilous. If he takes at least 2 more Elder Signs, then Yog-Sothoth will immediately advance to the winner's group. But let's find out. Ithaqua dodges the bullet, so all 3 investigators go away, and no damage done to Ithaqua on that. So that was a very lucky break for the Windwalker. Anyway, for Ithaqua's turn, let's see, what do we want to do here? I could use the gate option. That could be bad because I'd be taking the... So actually, at the end of the turn, I will sacrifice 2 cultists from my lodge to take... actually, no, that's not bad because that's not bad because I don't get penalized for no cultists in the Abyss. I've got all mine in the lodge right now. But anyway, I think I will use the... how do I want to do this? Do I have any spells that I'm particularly interested in right now? I don't think I do. So I will just use my gate card to move up to the other world, which brings the 4 investigators into my lodge. This is also potentially very dangerous. But I'll place 1 cultist there and another investigator, which will let me roll 5 dice. And then I will actually cast... Power Surge, so until the end of my turn, I control my current location. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So any cultists or any Cthulhus I roll here gives me the cultists back in the Abyss. Wow, I like that roll a lot, though. So I get to sacrifice 4 cultists, advance 4 on the summoning track. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then because I had control of the location via Power Surge... Actually, yeah. Because I control the location via Power Surge, I get 2 of them back into the lodge. So that was a fortunate turn of events. Then with a green, or with a wild yellow and blue. Wild yellow and blue. I'll use the wild for cubes of power, so I can roll 2 additional dice on a roll. And those get discarded. And then drawing up, I find Witch's Curse, taking a green and a yellow and a white on a yellow symbol, though. So that might be that could be a problem potentially, because that means if I can't even move to the streets of Arkham, I'd trigger another raid on my turn. But anyway, the investigators are going to discard a blue card at the streets of Arkham and move over to the museum, placing another investigator there. And before I take my next turn, I need to take another small break. I did actually move the wrong piece, the wrong fate piece, but it's all fixed now. So, looking at what I want to do here. I really need to find a way to rebuild my cultists at the other worlds. But actually, at the end of the turn, actually, I'm going to cast, at the end of my turn, I'm going to cast Gate to the Past. So I can sacrifice 2 cultists from my lodge to take the basic location's action. So I'll take the museum there, I'll take the mistranslated manuscript, and then replacing that will be True Magic. As an action, you can exhaust this to discard a spell in your reserve, then draw the top spell from the spell deck, and immediately ready it for free. Let's see, what do I want to do here? Let's see here. I would be initiating a raid with 8 dice. That would be a huge problem. Cancel a raid, which probably means the investigators would stay there, I would think. Yeah, removing 2. Basic action there would remove 2, and then if I had control, I'd have to sacrifice to remove another one, but I'd still get raided with 5 investigators, which could be a problem. But do I try to duck the bullet here, or because the odds of coming out of that with no elder signs whatsoever are slim to none. But I think we've got to try it. So I'll discard a yellow from the other worlds to move down to the streets of Arkham. I know I'm making a very hazardous play here. Very dangerous one, too. Cultist and an investigator. Then I'll remove 2 cultists from my lodge. Then because I have control of it, I'll sacrifice 1 from the streets of Arkham to remove another another investigator. For 2 yellow, 3 blue, and a red. There's nothing there I can prepare, so yeah, here we go. If Ithaqua can survive this somehow with only 1 elder sign, he'll still be in the running for a die roll tiebreaker with Yog-Sothoth. But if Ithaqua takes 2 elder signs, then Yog-Sothoth will advance to the winners group. So Yog-Sothoth, I know, is rooting for elder signs here. Yog-Sothoth gets 1 elder sign on Ithaqua's track, which means 1 investigator stays put, but 4 are gone. So Ithaqua is still in the running, but is very much in peril. And I forgot to draw for the end of turn, so I'll pretend we did that in the right order. So Ithaqua will draw on a red, and will draw Transmogrify. Change any 1 rolled die to any face. If the new face is Tentacle or Cthulhu, become cursed. Okay, then the investigators will move to the green locate. We'll move to the gathering from the museum. Place another investigator there. Then for Ithaqua, I think Ithaqua will discard blue and a white. Is there anywhere that's got blue and a white? The ceremony does. So yeah, I think we will go ahead as... Yeah, so I will discard I'll discard the white card to move over to the ceremony, which will get me a cultist and an investigator on the location. I'll get a gate card, and then I'll get to use Ithaqua's Dark Gift. So I get to shuffle the Winter Squall tokens. Which is actually a pretty bad shuffle, but these things are just terrible shaped. But anyway, I think that's the best we'll do. We'll give them a cut, and we'll use these 3. Alright, so Squall 1. So the summoning investigator would become cursed. So the investigators would theoretically become cursed, except that doesn't happen there. Second up, All cults sacrifice one cultist from this location, then destroy one elder sign from their track. That could be useful. That could get Ithaqua out of tiebreaker territory. And move all investigators from this location onto your lodge. Ooh, that could be a problem. So actually, that would just I think that would probably just return them to the supply. So then destroy one investigator. Okay, so I'll place the cursed here and destroy an investigator there. I'll place sacrifice one from this location and destroy one on your summoning track right back here at the ceremony. And I'll move all investigators from this location onto your lodge. I'll place that at the museum, and we'll destroy that cult, that investigator. And then temporary control actually is something I'm interested in here, so we'll go ahead and roll for that. Which I do get temporary control of the location, so I will sacrifice two of my cultists to advance one more on the summoning track. And then with a white, a blue, and a yellow, I will actually go ahead and prepare Transmogrify, so I can change a rolled fit die to any face. If the new face is Cthulhu or Tentacle, I become cursed. Which I haven't been doing that much with. I haven't been getting cursed that much this game, but anyway. Then Ithaqua draws on a white, Enthrall. Choose one location that another cult controls, takes 2 red. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location. Okay, and then we see that the investigators are discarding a blue at the gathering to move up to the museum. They'll place another cultist there, but they will have to deal with this winter squall. Which one did I place here? I placed... Move all investigators from this location onto your lodge. So that will actually just return them to the supply. Which is actually kind of helpful for me. But anyway, what do I want to do this turn? I think I want to start moving... I think from the ceremony I'll discard a green to move these that when any cult, reveal and apply the effect. So, I'm trying to remember what I put here. I become cursed. That's actually my first curse, which isn't too bad. So I do get a curse. I put in a cultist there and an investigator here. I'll gain 3 from the abyss and move 1 to the other worlds. Then I will roll for temporary control. Which I don't get. That's unfortunate. But there's a lot of stuff here. So there's 3 blue, a white, a wild card, and a green, which I will use to roll to prepare. I'll use that to prepare Alter Fate, so I can either re-roll up to 3 of my dice once or 1 up to 3 times. So I'll prepare that in my 3rd spell, and Ithaqua is now maxed out on spells that he can have prepared. And then we'll draw 2, we'll drop to 5. So on a green symbol first, Ithaqua finds Alter Fate, which is another reroll. This one takes a yellow or a red. And on a green as well, Transmogrify, taking a white and a yellow. Let me just check what I've got prepared before I take the investigator's next turn. Okay, and yeah. Alright, so the investigators will discard a red symbol to move over to the library and place a cultist there. What does Ithaqua want to do here? I think Ithaqua... Do I just want to go for it here at this point? That actually wouldn't be a completely terrible idea. So I think Ithaqua will go for it. So we'll discard 2 cards, 2 greens to move up to the other worlds. We'll get a cultist up there and an investigator there. And we're rolling 3 dice, but Ithaqua is going to cast Cubes of Power. When you're rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to this roll. So Ithaqua will be rolling a total of 5 dice. So 3 of these need to be Tentacles or Cthulhu's for Ithaqua to advance. Actually, no, I take that back. We still have a die roll. Let's see, 1, 2. Then I will actually discard Jade's Statue for a reroll, so I can reroll up to 2 of my dice. I want the Tentacles to stay. So I'll reroll those 2 dice. And I do get a 3rd tentacle, so what that means is Ithaqua gets to sacrifice all 3 of these, and Ithaqua will advance 3 on the summoning track, taking an additional curse. Let's see here. I just want to make sure there isn't any way Ithaqua can stop the curse. We would have had Alter Fate, but Ithaqua still would have hit the Elder Sign trajectory anyway. So, here's what happens. So, Ithaqua did manage to get summoned. Actually, all 3 of our Ancient Ones got summoned here. Ithaqua also had 3 Elder Signs and 2 curses. So, actually, we have a tiebreaker between Yog-Sothoth and Ithaqua. Hastur has been eliminated from Christmas in Arkham. So what we're going to need to do is I'm going to need to change my battery, so I'll be right back. We're actually not going to have a die roll for a tiebreaker at all, because Yog-Sothoth and Ithaqua, like I said, ended up tied at the end of that. But this is where the executive tiebreaker is going to come into play. So if you remember, Ithaqua was our opponent for Christmas in Arkham last year. Yog-Sothoth has not been featured on the channel yet at all. So based on the executive tiebreaker then, Yog-Sothoth will actually advance into the winner's group for this Fate of the Elder Gods tournament in Christmas in Arkham. But anyway, so we'll just go ahead and widen that out. So that will do it for this first group of the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament. Like I said, Yog-Sothoth has advanced because of the executive tiebreaker. So the next video will continue the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament with the next group consisting of Attribution, then Nyarlathotep, and finally Azathoth. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Take care everyone, and have a very happy Thanksgiving.